Today I fucked up by accidentally calling my GF fat. So my GF has been going to the gym over the past month to get back to her pre-surgery body. She had to take 2 months off after a surgery she had, so it was basically like starting all over at the gym. She's got a set routine of cardio and weights and has been working to improve muscle tone and cardio. She is pretty self-conscious of her body, so the gym is a big deal to her. She came into the apartment today after going to the gym and was telling me about her success. She mentioned that her thighs were bothering her and were really sore from leg day of the day before. I said, "You and those thunder thighs." She gave me a WTF face and then walked away. You should know, I did not know what thunder thighs meant. I do now. Oh boy do I know. I thought I was complimenting her muscular legs and instead I inadvertently insulted her. We laughed about it later. Too long didn't read, told my girl she had thunder thighs without realizing what it meant. I did not know what thunder thighs meant. I do now. Oh boy do I know. I'm a woman and I literally lolled at this. That is exactly what happened. We laugh about it now and it's an inside joke, but she was mad at me for a hot minute. She thought you were calling her fat, but you were really calling her fat. I made this exact same mistake in high school and I'm a girl. I was at one of my soccer games and I mentioned to one of my teammates that one of the players on the field had thunder thighs. I meant it as a compliment. Her legs looked very muscular and toned, and my teammate looked at me like I had 2 heads. She explained to me what thunder thighs really meant and I felt so stupid. Oh well, it happens. If you called her thunder thighs, can she call you her thunder body? Smile. What? I thought thunder thighs meant big and strong, not fat. Then you should consider this post a PSA. Today I fucked up by eating sushi at a fancy party. Obligatory "this happened years ago" statement. I've really only just recovered from the event enough to laugh about it, and I still have the scar. Years ago, I got my first real corporate job. I was a corporate trainer and I also went around to different company sites and did these motivational pep rally kind of things. It's worth noting that I had just turned 21, so I was really young to be in that kind of position, the youngest the company had put in that spot. So I was nervous about proving myself to begin with. I had been promoted to that role to help with a major expansion project, the company's first site on the West Coast. Eyes would be on me, high profile, blah blah blah. Spent months doing training and prep at a local community college while the building was under construction. We worked our butts off, even doing things like helping paint and vacuuming the floors so we could meet the deadline before the official grand opening, complete with ribbon cutting by the CEO. This was a big company, so meeting the executives was kind of a big deal. I was nervous, but I'm fairly good at hiding it. All was well for the ceremony, for cake and punch on site with all of the new employees. Then we come to the fancy kickoff gala that night. This was a more exclusive event. I was invited as part of the team who had done a huge amount of work on the project. It was mostly executives and investors. It was held on the observation deck of a fancy hotel. There were no official invitations, nothing with a dress code. In retrospect, I should have realized that gala meant fancy/black tie. I did not. And apparently, I was the only one that missed the memo. Everyone else was in tuxes and evening gowns, and there I was in my nicely pressed, at least, skirt suit and blazer. Oops. Mistake number 1. You may be asking yourself why I didn't just sneak off and go home to change. I had nothing at home to change into and no idea where I could find an evening gown on extremely short notice in a town I'd just moved to on an entirely different coast. I debated just ditching the event, but my boss was there and I knew he'd be looking for me. And besides, FaceTime with the execs was apparently the key to my future career prospects at the company, and so I resolved to tough it out and prepared excuses about my non-existent evening gown being lost during my very recent, important for later, cross-country move for the company. I spotted an absolutely gorgeous sushi display that was taller than I was, and I'm not short. Sushi being my absolute favorite food, I made my way over. The CEO and his wife were standing there, holding little plates and chatting with people. Surprise. He recognized me and even knew my name. He introduced me to his wife, and while we chatted, me pretending I was in a sparkly dress rather than an eggplant-colored suit, I grabbed a few pieces of sushi. I was starving, having eaten only a piece of cake the entire day, and that had been several hours earlier. The CEO turns back to me and asks how I'm enjoying my new home city just after I shove a piece of unagi nigiri into my mouth. Here's the fuck up. My eagerness to reply, I attempt to chew quickly. Suddenly, there's pain. Oh, the pain. I grab my mouth and double over as blood runs through my fingers and all over the floor. Some even spattered on that sparkly dress I so envied. People gasp. The CEO grabs my shoulder and asks if I'm alright. Shake my head, arching blood. He asks if I need to go to the hospital. I nod, vigorously. He ushers me to the elevator, stopping only to grab some napkins. One incredibly painful and awkward elevator ride later and we're in the parking garage, me looking like I'd just had my tongue cut out. We get to the car and of course it's a Jaguar with fancy everything and buttery white leather seats that are going to look just lovely covered in blood. Of course. I don't know if the car was his or a rental, but either way, it's getting cleaned. Can't cost more than one, maybe 2 entire paychecks. I'll pay for it later if I survive. We get out of the garage, the kind attendant took one look at me in all of my blood-soaked splendor and just waved us through no charge. The CEO turns to me as we pull out and says, okay, where's the nearest hospital? I have no fucking clue. I just moved there. It should be noted that this was about a year before Apple released the first iPhone, so no Waze or Google Maps to help guide us. I shrug, helpless. Still gushing blood at an alarming rate. I've soaked through the napkins completely, my front is covered, and despite my best attempts to keep my mouth closed, blood is flowing out pretty freely. I don't really know what to do. I still have that damned bite of unagi in my mouth, along with something else. Something sharp. But I'm not going to go digging around and getting more blood all over these gorgeous and expensive seats. I already kind of want to die as is. Okay, the CEO says, mostly to himself. We'll just get on the highway. There will be signs for a hospital there. Miraculously, he's right. After what feels like hours but was probably closer to 10 minutes, we arrive at the emergency room of the local hospital. The CEO valets the car because apparently that's a thing. Triage nurse takes one look at me and makes a call. 2 other nurses show up with a wheelchair and usher me into the back without so much as asking my name. Not that I could have given it, anyway. The doctor comes in and gently pries open my mouth. I lean forward and spit out the wad of bloody, half-chewed sushi and she quickly finds the culprit, a sharp, shiny eel bone. That tiny dagger of doom had sliced a surprisingly deep 2.5 inches gash under my tongue. Needed 2 layers of stitches, totaling 12. The CEO in his great kindness actually waited for me and drove me back to my apartment. I thanked him through numbing agent and swelling and went in to cry myself to sleep. I still can't touch unagi. Too long didn't read, first corporate job. Meet the CEO at a fancy party. Eat a bite of sushi death trapped with a sharp bone and make an impression by getting blood on his fancy upholstery. Chances are he had the caterer pay for the damages as that could have killed someone. A sharp, shiny eel bone. I don't think this was a FU. It was due to negligence by the underqualified sushi maker. Sounds like it was an electric evening. I'm curious. What happened after? Did he thought it was funny? Etc. I got a get well soon card with a gift card to the company store. I never really dealt with him again, so I'm honestly not sure what he thought. I never did care for unagi, but this has put me right off forever. All I can say is EEI. Today I fucked up by making people think I'm a porn star. I live in Japan. I'm a sound engineer, and for years I worked in live music, but last year I pivoted to the corporate side of things. Now my job mostly revolves around designing and installing teleconference systems, PA systems, sometimes projection mapping and things like that for major companies in and around Tokyo. Since it's technical and I often don't feel like explaining it, when Japanese people ask me about my job, I usually reply, in Japanese, with something like it's related to AV and leave it at that. But today dawned on me that, While in English I think most people understand AV to mean audio, visual, in Japan the majority of people understand AV to mean adult video, EA the porn industry. Today I asked a friend about this phrasing and he was like, oh yeah. If you put it like that, 98% of people probably think you're a foreign porn actor. I've told this to Tinder matches, written it on government paperwork, and mentioned it to people I've casually met at bars. Absolutely not trying to disrespect porn actors, it's just pretty embarrassing to think I'm saying one thing but actually conveying another. Too long didn't read, lost in translation. You keep using that word AV. I do not think it means what you think it means. I'm imagining the Japanese kid who moves to North America and discovers that school has an AV club. Now that is hilarious. I imagine nice conservative Japanese people being shocked. I'm just really curious how long Op has lived in Japan for and also wondering if Op was successful ahem on Tinder. Lol. Same thing happened to my boyfriend during his first trip to Japan. His work involves mostly audio-visual equipment, and it's easier to just say he works in AV. His friend who was living in Japan at the time was able to clarify, but I think there were at least a few people who genuinely thought we was in fact an adult video star. Congratulations on making it into the elite, 70+ number of male AV professionals.